Hi everybody. Today's video is a little bit different than normal. I'm not asking or answering questions or talking about interesting topics related to complex chronic illness. It's a bit of a public service announcement today. Around this time of year, it's June. It's at least in beautiful Nova Scotia, Atlantic Canada. I'm sure applies to other climates as well. Things are starting to get a bit more humid. I've plugged in my dehumidifier and we're running that in our basement all the time now. And it's basically just a reminder to think about the humidity in your home. One of the things I talk about a lot is mold illness, and mold is something that we really, I think, as a species need to be really mindful of. If the humidity level in our living environment is too high, mold can grow more easily, and unless there's some really great airflow solutions or whatnot, like some, I know really old homes were built with just kind of these sort of an old-timey wisdom in mind about like certain airflow and this and that and breathability and all that, and my understanding there was some built-in some intrinsic components to the sort of a traditional home construction that maybe took into account not letting mold grow. But to my understanding, our modern day homes, in an effort to make them as energy efficient as possible, the builders try to make them as airtight as possible, and to my understanding that can really allow for more mold growth to occur. So the long story short is that to my understanding, we should all be mindful of humidity, and unless you have some built-in guarantee that the home you're living in is somehow mold proof, I think keeping an eye on the humidity level is a really important thing to do. I've heard different experts on this topic mention different numbers. Some say to keep the humidity down to below 50%. Some say to keep it down below 40%. I've actually heard a couple of folks say to keep it below 30%, which I can speak from experience is quite challenging to do. For myself, I like to try to keep my humidity level in my basement and other in my office and various other places around 40% or lower. You have to be a bit careful with humidity, because if it gets too low, then our skin can dry out, and sometimes people can have issues not having enough humidity. Sinuses can get irritated and whatnot. But we really want to avoid that mold growth as much as possible. Unfortunately, running a dehumidifier and keeping the humidity level less than, say, 50 or 40% is not a guarantee that mold isn't going to grow. Of course, there could be other sources of water and moisture, but essentially you need enough moisture for mold to grow. And so working with a dehumidifier is a really great option. If you're not sure what the humidity level is in your home, you're like, oh, I don't have a dehumidifier. Of course, I've never seen a dehumidifier that doesn't have a humidity measuring component on its display. But if you don't already have a dehumidifier and you're wondering, I wonder if this or that room in my home is too humid, at any hardware store, online or whatnot, you can purchase something called a hygrometer, not a hydrometer, but a hygrometer. And that is a fairly inexpensive tool that you can buy. It's about $10 or so, give or take, and just pop a battery in, put it anywhere that you want to know the humidity of, and it will tell you what the humidity is. Again, in terms of the numbers to work with, I mean, personally, I aim for about 40%. That seems to have worked well in my personal experience, but have to factor in, the cost of keeping the humidity down that far and this and that. Yeah, just a reminder to think about the humidity in your home as the seasons are changing, depending on where you are. My apologies, I don't know, how this applies if you're in the southern hemisphere. Maybe I should have posted this video 6 months ago. I don't really know. I'm quite familiar with Atlantic Canada, but again, I'm sure this applies to other regions. And if not now, then at whatever time of the year it makes sense for you to take this advice, please, as things are getting more humid, think about the humidity, run your dehumidifier, and I think that's really important. If anybody has any questions or comments on this topic, please post in the comment section below, and if there are any questions about anything else, post and I will answer as soon as I can.